Hi everyone, I am Michael Bean, and this is your myfreeactingclass.com lesson for Thursday, September the 24th. Today we are being joined by Jess and Éanna from Untold Wants Theatre Company. They are local acting teachers. They've been teaching via Zoom, both here in Vancouver or to classes here in Canada, their own classes, and they've also been teaching at a studio in Los Angeles. And I ran into them the other day and asked them if they would come and just like jam with me about teaching on Zoom, because it's the acting teachers who obviously casting probably at this point has like the most exposure to taped auditions, but acting teachers have probably spent the most time on Zoom, and helping to support people on that. So I'm excited to talk to them a little bit about their artistic practice, and then just to do some jamming about some of the things that we found seem to be the most effective when working via Zoom. And then hopefully you can take those and take them into either your self-tapes or into mastering your own kind of Zoom class techniques. So you're like, yeah, cut it down. So I want to start by just quickly reminding you that this week's Actors Challenge, if you go to myfreeactingclass.com and scroll all the, don't click on anything, and scroll all the way down to the bottom, then you will find download the script for this week's Actors Challenge. You click here, it'll take you directly to that. Record yourself performing it, upload it, send me the link before 12 p.m. on Sunday, September 27th. I have not included the link yet to Tuesday's session where we broke down the script, but it is already up on the YouTube channel, which you could find just by clicking here and would take you directly there. And I'm going to open it now so that later I can remember to post that link to make life easy for you. So back to us. Here we go. Now, this is Jess.
Hi.
Jess, you're an actor and an acting teacher. You're currently based in Vancouver. Is that accurate?
I'm actually a director. My partner Éanna is the actor.
Okay, my bad.
Yes, but we're currently based in Vancouver, and everything else you said is totally accurate. We run a theater company called Untold Wants Theatre Company, and we put on plays and
plays
shows.
in the fall of last year?
We did a play in the winter of last year, and literally right before lockdown of this year. We closed a play late February, which it seems like 7 years ago now. So I'm really glad we got to be able to do a play this year. But yeah, so that has definitely put a pause on our theater endeavors. Yes, and we started teaching acting classes in person, obviously, last year in 2019, early 2019, and have continued that on Zoom this year.
And what's your background? I don't know, how you got into theater and how you got into directing. I'm just gonna get water. I'll be right back. I'm still listening.
Yeah, for sure. So first of all, Éanna is joining me a little bit later. He is working. So I'm Jess. Wow, my background is a little all over the place. I actually am a painter as well, and I found directing because I found that I've always loved the performing arts, and I was a theater rat growing up. I was born in New York, and then I was raised in LA, and then I went back east, back to New York for my undergrad, and then I found myself in Scotland for my master's, doing my master's in Scotland, in Glasgow, in directing, and that's where I met Éanna. And then we moved to Ireland for a year, so we were living in Dublin for a year, and then we came here to Vancouver. So it's been a little all over the place, but I have my master's in directing, and then my BA in theater and psychology, and painting. So it's super weird, but it's all about storytelling to me at the end of the day, right? That's what we do as artists, as creators. That's what we encourage actors to remind themselves that they do, right? You guys, actors, you are the vehicle of story. You are the vehicle through which the author's intent is communicated. And then through your own artistic interpretation of the script, you can make a character your own, and you can bring a character to life. So yeah, there's a lot of information, but
Thank you.
yeah, that's my background.
And so how are you finding making the transition from teaching in person to teaching in Zoom?
Yeah, so that was a big learning curve. We decided we had a class, as you know, that was interrupted in March. And right, March 14th, we locked it down. And we decided to push a couple of weeks because that's when we found out, that's when we thought like it would just be a couple of weeks. And we were like, okay, we actually can't push any longer. We need these, people still want to learn. They want to create, they want an outlet. They want a creative outlet and to work. So our classes are scene study. We will assign a scene, the actors up, and then we put the scene up, and then we talk about creating a character, building a character's backstory. We follow the 5 kind of principles of Stella Adler's backstory kind of, structure. And then we apply it to the given moment, the given circumstances of a scene. How do we translate that to Zoom? So what we decided to do was assign monologues instead. So you're not reliant on another person's internet connection. Stella Adler. Really recommend. I actually have one of her books here, The American Masters. She also has a book on Ibsen, Chekhov, and Strindberg. We mostly teach Adler-based and Michael Chekhov, with a little bit of, obviously we're not in person, so we can't do our movement stuff, but we have a little bit of Laban and Lecoq movement-wise. So what we decided to do on Zoom, we had the same structure, the same text analysis, the same approach to creating a character, but this time it's with monologue. So the actors feel like they're making a self-tape. They're right here in this tiny box, and applying the same sort of work, just with monologue. We have now, as we've evolved over the months, moved into short scenes in which Éanna or I will read with the actor, but we don't want them to be reliant upon another actor's internet connection and just. So yeah, that's what we. I don't know if you want. Yeah, if you want more.
No, that's great. Just so that people know sort of a little bit about what your approach and a lot of the people who you've referenced haven't come up. There's just so much to cover. In acting, I've been talking and talking and talking every day for months. I've never mentioned Stella Adler. So every time we bring somebody on who's like, oh, who inspires me, like, who excites me, maybe that's the thing that somebody takes away from today.
Yes.
Another book to go find, another sort of understanding of where to go looking for good information.
Yeah. 100%. While you're hunkered down, read.
And so something that has come up. I mean, Kevin was saying that he had a couple of tapes that he had to do last week. Some of these folks have been doing the actors challenges each week. Which is like recording a scene, usually with somebody by Zoom and putting it up online. But then something that I've also heard from some of our guests, like more experienced actors coming in, and from some of my clients, is how do you connect with somebody else via Zoom? And so after spending the last, what was it? So April, May, June, July, August, so after spending the last 6 months helping people learn to find that real felt sense of connection. Even though they're just there alone with their computer, what have you found helps? What have you witnessed in people's process? Like, how do we go about answering that question that people have of how do I find connection via Zoom?
Via Zoom, yeah. I mean, it is very tough. We aren't, as humans, we are, as animals, we are not built to feel over technology, right? We are not, we're built to pick up on nonverbal communication. We're built to pick up on energy and chemicals, pheromones. We are a very sensory being, right? So that's where I would say your imagination is your biggest tool in this, in this new brave new world here. As we say to our students, you have to imagine your given circumstances. You have to imagine your relationships with the people that you're working with as your scene partner. What is the backstory of that relationship? And literally when I say given circumstances, I mean sensorily, right? What time of day is it? Where am I in time and place? Where have I just been? And what do I want right now in the scene at hand? So really making all of those things so viscerally and physiologically real for yourself, imagination, are extremely important. So there's a lot of things there that I took a couple notes. I want to just talk about the idea that we are now being encouraged to talking head act, whereas that was the thing that we were trying to teach against when we were in person, is very interesting, because we have this kind of contradiction now of like, okay, this is a skill I need to learn, but I still should not forget about my body and the connection empathetically and emotionally that my body gives me to a character. I would still say, as much as you can, remember your body as part of your instrument. Please, please, please do. Because no matter if you're just seeing me from here to here, you will know whether or not my body is connected. Our bodies tell stories, whether we're in control of them or not, right? So you may as well be in control of them. Yeah. So, and on top of that, they're a perfect kind of, when you engage your body, even parts that you can't see on screen or in a self-tape, it's a direct kind of igniter of your emotional engine. Right? Even just controlling your breathing and your posture and where your attention lies and all of that. Oh, hi, we've got somebody who's joined. Hey. So please remember that your body still exists when you're making self-tapes. And I promise it will help you both connect to your character scene partner. And tap into your imagination. If your scene partner is a tiny box on your screen, you got to build it. Unfortunately, you really have to build, who is this person to me? Do they want the same things I want? Are they an obstacle in my way? How, what tactics am I going to use in this scene with them or against them? What's our backstory together? What do they mean to me? All of those, very kind of basic 101 structural elements that we have to ask ourselves in any real scene. And I do think it's extremely important for you guys to stay warm. Exercise those muscles. Just like the muscles of script interpretation and text analysis get stronger, the muscles of connecting through new technology will get stronger. I love the actors' challenges. I love making self-tapes. I love connecting. I think that it's so important for actors to connect over Zoom or FaceTime or whatever, to discuss the big ideas of a script, to see what it means to look into somebody's eyes and see if you can connect with them empathetically through a screen. It's possible, right? It's absolutely possible. So please keep doing that. But with the aid
you've
of your
seen it get easier for your students over the course of the last few months?
Yeah, 100%. I definitely have, with the building of their imagination and an emphasis on specificity.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. If you are too broad with your feelings, if you're too broad with what your character wants in a given moment, it won't touch you emotionally. And all of this work is for nothing if it's not touching you emotionally, if it's not serving you, right? So please make sure that you're being extremely specific, because that specificity will ignite your emotional engine. And it will make you care about what it is will make you see what's going on in the scene. And if you see, we'll see it. And then I also wanted to talk the self-tape aspect on. It's, as things are opening up, you guys are going to be self-taping more. You probably have already started that. And it's great because self-tapes were very over the last couple of years. It was possible to live in Toronto and tape for something in Vancouver, or vice versa, and encouraged. I would say the same rules apply. Make sure extremely specific. Make sure in little black box with your ring light and your blank wall behind you, please make sure you've built your scene in your head. Where am I in time and place? What do I want? What's going on? What's my relationship to this person? What's in my way and how am I going to get it? Yeah. So yeah, just be specific and play, you know?
I've been running the kids and teen school, where I teach for 18 years now, and so I've had a chance, to bring in and train teachers and coaches, over that time, and so in those meetings, one of the things that comes up for me a lot, that I really love, when people ask, so what is it like teaching, or what is it like coaching, or what do you like about teaching, is this idea that I might be frozen. Can you hear me? Maybe you can.
Yeah.
Good.
I can hear you.
That past a certain point of experience, just about anybody can see all of the things that might make a scene better, in results terms or from the outside. And the thing that makes teaching or coaching endlessly fascinating for me is the art of choosing which two you're going to ask people to focus on. Right, because just almost anybody can see all 20,
Of course.
But if you catch somebody with the right two on the right day, sometimes you can make 15 of the rest of them go away. And so that was like a lot of fantastic rapid fire information. And I wonder if some of the folks who are here or who are listening are feeling like that's intimidating, like, no, I love it. Like, hit them with how important specificity is, and then to complement that, if somebody wants to build that imagination muscle, if they want to work on specificity, and they've only got the bandwidth for one thing to start with, or two things to start with, where do you recommend that somebody who wants to move towards being specific in everything start, right? If they've got to start somewhere, where's your preferred entry point?
For sure. So, yes, I agree with you. And I think, we touch on these things in our classes over the course of 6 weeks. We touch on these things kind of slowly as you go.
Of course.
It does, right. It does take kind of one, possibly, or two, possibly per week. Éanna is here, so he's going to join me. He just got in. But yes, I would recommend start with building your character. Building your characters. Okay. Here's the thing. I'm so excited. You have a script, a text. The text gives you facts, right? The text gives you facts of, hi.
Hi, everybody.
We're talking about specificity instead of much information.
Yeah.
So the text gives you a lot of facts of your character's behavior. Mm-hmm. It's your job to make those things experiential, right? So when you're starting to build your character specifically, I would always go back to the text and see those little nuggets of evidence as to who my character is, right? And then you go and then you start to build your backstory. What was my family life like? What was my, sociologically, what was it like growing up, economically, politically, time and place, regionally, era? What was it like growing up? But always stick to the facts of what the play is giving you first and foremost. Yeah. It can get really overwhelming, but I think the thing to focus on in terms of imagination and specificity is the facts of what a scene is giving you at any given time, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. When you're dealing with backstory, when you feel you're kind of done with backstory, your character is solid and you're in the scene at hand and you're dealing with given circumstances and trying to imagine, the relationship between you and your scene partner. And I would say focus first and foremost on what you want. Yeah. What does my character want? And, and if you want to use jargon, we could talk about objectives and, and objectives and what's in my way, right? Obstacles, and how am I going to get it? Mm-hmm. Tactics. Those three things for me will tell you how to build everything else.
Yeah. Beautiful. And I think that certainly I see in my work, that if I can help somebody find the relationship, you know, and understand it in a visceral way, that often brings the scene to life, particularly if they're struggling with the whole essay of what did my character have for breakfast, and you know, where did they go to school, and what kind of house am I in? And I'm like, look, you've just got the person who you're looking at across from you, right? Like the one thing that's real in this scene is the person you're looking at. So can you look at their eyeballs, you know, and try and focus on that relationship, and take, you know, everything you can from their face. You know,
and we always say that, like, how do you know what you're saying is landing?
Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah,
100%.
You read it in the eyes, you read it in their body language, everything they're saying. And that's over Zoom, this is where the hardest part comes in. And I don't know how much we've touched on this already, but that is the biggest thing, that this medium doesn't allow for an easy kind of accessibility with that. This is where imagination is so important to fill in that gap. And yeah, they're like, what did we have for breakfast? All that stuff is it's things that either you get too caught up in, and it's almost like getting caught in a rapids, and you just don't know, there's too much at once.
Yes.
Or you just don't think about it at all, and then you are lost in a similar way. It is, you almost need to, I had a student quote Chekhov at us recently, and it's just the perfect example of I'm gonna put you, but it's at some point come to me.
For the character.
Wait for the character.
Yeah.
And so it's
a lot of this work is
being super in your imagination, just letting yourself think, what if? And then a little conversation with your character brain, like with your little characters in a monologue. That will help for things like Zoom, when we're like, I'm trying to read what the other person's giving me, but I'm only seeing this much, and I'm not seeing their body language, and I don't know what. That's when the imagination sets in. It's like, well, what could they be saying?
Yes.
How do I fill around this? How do I make this tangible? What is my internal monologue saying for what I'm reading? Because then that is the character you can relate to. Your internal monologue is the thing that you can listen to for clues and evidence to give you more in a scene, up until we do get back in person, up until you are in that space where you can read body language, where you can smell aroma, and suddenly you're in the world with your scene partner.
And all of those things will lead toward the emotional implications of what's going on, right? And that helps you with stakes, and that helps you of all of
that. All of this evolved out of a larger conversation about how do you feel connected by a Zoom, you know, when you're working by Zoom. And so Jess gave us, you know, like an incredibly detailed director's perspective, you know, and I think one of the things that's so interesting about your partnership is that, like, you are teaching together, you're approaching the same things, you know, but you have different backgrounds, you know, and so for you personally, you know, what's your entry point? You know, if you want to feel connected, you know, what do you know in yourself as an actor to be the most effective place for you to start?
It's funny, because that for me changes character to character. Sometimes I'll have moments where I'll just connect vividly with what they're saying in the script, the words they're using, or like the way that it's evolved, that I understand them on an intellectual and emotional way, and I'll just dive right into building backstory, building memories, feeling it, seeing it, understanding ideologies and thematics, and like building that side of it. And then there are times where I'm just bouncing my head off a wall trying to figure that out, and I just go into my body.
Yeah.
And I literally just explore them with body. I start there. I put myself into neutral, and I just start playing with affectations, seeing like, all right, what do I know of them? I know they work in an office, so they're going to be slumped. How's that going to affect my posture? But I also know from something they said that they used to play sports. So are they like trying to like counterbalance themselves every day? Or are they constantly getting up to stretch? Are they moving? How do they hold themselves physically, and allow myself to tap into that and let whatever physical change I have affect my thought? So if I'm moving like the character in a way that I wouldn't move normally, how does that affect my thought process? If I'm hunched over all the time, how does that affect my mood? Do I just like, and I'll sit in it for anywhere up to an hour, maybe more, and just like, God, I'm getting really like irritable, or I'm just feeling kind of down, and I'm just realizing it's because my body language is putting me into this posture. I'm starting to analyze it, and then I'll bring that into the text. See how that affects. How does that anchor me to the character? How does it affect the character? Does it change dialogue. It's suddenly dialogue new and enlightened to me, because I understand now, oh wait, if they're constantly like held over, they're feeling weighted. Now this sentence has way more to it, because it's not like a sarcastic thing that I thought. It's literally just they couldn't think of anything else to say, or it's just everything is so close to them they didn't want to give more away. So it really is a variety of ways into it for me. I always stick with imagination. I always have and always will. So anything Adler and Chekhov, coming from that background in first, just as like to use terms and schools of thought as like a way to understand it. But I do that because there's so much freedom in imagination. There's so much freedom in letting something else, letting another character, another human being come to life. And
you can make sure you empathize with them, but
yeah,
they're not you.
And the times where it's really hard to empathize, it's how do you get to that? And it is imagination. You do have to really imagine them and see them, and not just think, oh, this person in the script is such a not a good person. So how do I make
or
them?
Sometimes actors read it and they're like, oh, this person is so boring.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
comes up with film and TV auditions a lot. Is that somebody's auditioning for, a character that they just doesn't speak to, and they're like, oh, this character's so boring. And
the funny thing is, I love that.
Right.
I love that when a character is boring, because that just means that they're real. Right?
Yeah.
Like it just means that they are a human being. And so what better person to play, because we as human beings understand that we're not boring. What goes on in here is not boring. We portray it as boring because if anyone knew what was inside, people would lock us up.
That's it. And that's what we call it.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like how Caden is like, yeah. But no, it's when it's a boring thing, it's taking out of the realm of those kind of stigmas that will attach,
like judgments,
and like, because it does have to come from empathy. We can't approach any character without empathetically understanding them. They might not be a good person. They might do horrible things,
but nobody thinks they're the bad guy.
Rarely would.
And this week's Actors Challenge is a Hallmark movie, and so that's the critique I often hear when people are auditioning for Hallmark.
Yeah. It's funny because, again, styles of writing will dictate different things. Like
100%.
we always encourage our students to go and do homework. This isn't just something that started in the last 50, 60 years, and like it's not just television. Like, read up the different genres, like farce, read up on no and kabuki theater, look at mime, look at commedia dell'arte. All of these forms of theater, realism theater, but certain terms going back, but all of these forms, they help you to take a style of writing that you might not think is exactly flamboyant or exotic or extravagant
or exciting
and elevate it, because now you're understanding a tone. Now you're understanding what they could be saying or what you could say with this character.
Which means then you can take something like Hallmark and elevate it. You
Yeah.
can say, okay, I actually know the theme of Hallmark is usually somebody in conflict with something they thought they wanted and then something they find out they want, right? I mean, that's like the center of every, right? It's formulaic, and it works because we all kind of know that feeling. We can empathize with that feeling, right? So it's like, okay, what's the central conflict? And you can elevate it to actually mean something to you. And if it means something to you, it'll mean something to us.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh. So many great sound bites here, right? If it means something to you, it'll mean something to us. We heard about empathy and specificity, different points of access, using your body, imagination. Does anybody have like a very quick question for these two before we wrap up? Because it's just a smidge after 4:30. No, you just want to digest all of the goodness they just gave you? I understand.
Don't forget that you're muted if you are asking a question.
Dia says, what's inspiring you these days?
All right.
Girl, that is a nuanced question. It's funny. I feel like more inspires me because we are limited to what we can do and what we can experience. I feel like it's like if you put yourself in a kind of, you give yourself boundaries and now you're like more free within your boundaries. Visual art is really exciting me these days. The telling a story from your own internalized world looking out is really inspiring me these days.
Yeah.
Also, remote immersive interactive theater is super cool.
Yeah.
You can do it from your home. A lot of them are Zoom based and they're so cool. It's a new movement that's happening. It's remote theater, but it's still live.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually starting a project at the moment that we're writing, and it's safe and it's using this new world of technology that we're all learning about. So that's what's exciting me. Yeah.
It's tricky. It's hard to get excited these days, but honestly, it is just living in the world. Again, I encourage everyone to read anything by Brecht and then research what theater of the absurd is, and theater of the cruel.
It'll make you laugh because we can't cry.
Our job is to create Bertolt Brecht, exactly. Yeah. Our job is to teach when no one else can, and to be there to give people an escape or something, but an outlet in some way. So honestly, to be inspired, just knowing that people are still trying to make work, writers working, knowing that they're still finding new ways to make medium work, that inspires me every day as an actor, because it means that I need to up my game. It reinstills the fact that we'll never stop learning as an actor. And that inspires me.
And evolving with the times, whether they're technological or not.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for making time to talk to us today.
Sorry for being so late.
Yep. No, good.
Vancouver hustle.
Yes, I'm so glad you sauntered in. We want you to take the time and feel good. Great. Unmute yourselves and thanks to say thanks to these two. Before we wrap up, where can people find you if they want to find more of your ideas and inspirations?
Yes. If you see at the bottom here, our name is Untold Wants. You can find us at untoldwants.com. Mm-hmm. And we actually have a new round of classes beginning October 6th. Yep. So all our class information is on our website, and you can see stuff. Oh, thank you. Yeah, there's the link. And you can see links to our previous shows and what we've been up to. You can also find us on Instagram at Untold Wants. Yeah. And Facebook.
Okay. Now everybody unmute yourselves and say bye. Thanks, Jess.
Bye.
Bye, Michael.
Thanks, guys.
Bye, Michael.
Bye.